Behold, quantum computing is here. It is the end of encryption, the end of cryptocurrencies, of privacy, of national security. None of those things are true. We're going to talk about that.
Welcome to Tech Topics brought to you by Cybervenger. We help keep small businesses stay protected and compliant with cutting-edge cybersecurity and IT solutions.
Okay, so quantum computing is all the buzz right now because there's been a big breakthrough in the scientific development of the concept of quantum computing. There is a project, I think, called Willow that for the first time ever used over 100 qubits to do a thing. They have 105 qubits. 105 qubits means nothing to the average person, but I'll try and translate where we're at here in the quantum computing realm versus conventional computing realm. I'd say we're probably somewhere around 1950 in terms of how far along conventional computing was developed. Like, we're on the drawing board dreaming up the theory how something might be created. Really, truly, quantum computing that's usable for stuff is like 20 years away, at least. And that's only if you figure on exponential development, where like developing the quantum computer gives you tools to help develop more quantum computing power. But we're talking right now, we're celebrating 105 bits. Okay. Computers are in the megabits, gigabits, terabyte size. Everyone hear of a terabyte hard drive? Okay. A kilobyte is 1,000 bytes. A byte is 8 bits. A megabyte's 1,000 kilobytes. A gigabyte's 1,000 megabytes, and a terabyte's 1,000 gigabytes. Okay, that's where we're at with conventional computing. We're billions and trillions of bytes. We're talking 105 bits, and people are excited. We are so early; it's not even funny. Point is, we're not in danger of quantum computing breaking any encryption anytime soon. So you can calm down about that. But there is an interesting point there to make, and that is data on the internet. And then they say the internet is forever, right? It ends up on the internet, tends to sit out there forever. 10, 20, 30, 40 years, who knows, right? What if a piece of encrypted data that you have stored today gets compromised? Well, not compromised, but read. Someone keeps a copy of that. It doesn't matter because it's completely scrambled garbage to them, right? It's just encrypted. 30 years from now, quantum computing finally actually becomes mature enough to do some encryption, right? And it manages to break that encryption. And now you can read the contents of a file, or many files, or thousands and thousands of files from 30 years ago. We're in a situation where anybody using encryption today, including the government, may eventually have that information get broken 30 years from now. Now, the good news is countermeasures for quantum computing aren't just theoretical. They're today. There are already quantum computing resistant encryption algorithms out there. So, from a future proofing standpoint, if you were to switch to those now, anything you're currently encrypting would no longer be vulnerable to being encrypted later in 30 years. But anything that you've already encrypted put out there still is. If a copy of it's out there, it may be hypothetically vulnerable to quantum computing. So AES 256 is a really common encryption standard. It's technically FIPS compliant at the moment, but AES 256, which is twice as long a key, it's twice as complex, is available, standardized. It's way out there. Very well adopted. It's not rare. It's not weird. You're not in uncharted territory. I suggest that everyone go from 128 to 256, not because you have to now, but because someday you will. And if the data you're using gets captured now, no problem. 128 is unbreakable today. But if someone hangs on to it 20 years from now, that might be able to break it. And there is data out there. If you have a large enough data set, 20-year-old information, you can do a lot with it. I mean, there's a lot of personal things in my life I wouldn't want someone to know from 20 years ago. You know what's one of them? My social security number. Probably going to have the same social security number 20 years from now that I do right now. I had the same social security number I did 20 years ago, right? I mean, most of us do anyway. Um, so old information has value. So it's important to try and encrypt it now in a way that will protect it then, if you follow. So it's better to use encryption resistant algorithms. So if you're storing something at rest, AES 256 is much better than 128. And there's different encryption to move things across the internet as to store them on a storage medium. And there is symmetric and asymmetric encryption, and a million videos out there that explain the difference. And to be specific, without getting too technical, RSA encryption is asymmetrical encryption, and it has a private key and a public key. The trick that quantum computer could do is a public key only lets you do one thing. You can encrypt, you can scramble the data, and only the person who has the private key can read it. So usually, if you're exchanging information on the web securely with somebody new, like say you go into a website, this is the most SSL, HTTPS when you go on the website. This is how that encryption works. Your web browser sends a private key to the server sends a private key to you, and then you encrypt a session key and send it to each other. And then you continue to talk over that session key. Um, but those public keys can theoretically be reverse engineered to spit out the private key. The computational power is impractical in today's world. Quantum computing will change that, where it is practical to get private key from the public key. So RSA encryption is hypothetically breakable someday in the future. It's good to look into quantum computing resistant algorithms now to future proof things, even though it's 20 years out, 30, 40. It kind of feels like quantum computing is another technology like nuclear fusion. Nuclear fusion's 10 years away and has been 10 years away for about 50 years. You know what I'm saying? It's one of those technology. We're real close. We're on the cusp of doing a viable, usable nuclear fusion, and we're always kind of on the cusp. And it's like tomorrow. Tomorrow never gets here because when tomorrow gets here, it's called today. And it's no longer tomorrow. That's how like nuclear fusion and quantum computing seem to me today. I don't know, but bad analogy, but it's all I got. Um, but anyway, you get the idea. It's the thing to think about is to try and future-proof your security because you're using encryption because you're suspecting that someone is going to be snooping on the actual packets and they're going to get a hold of that data. And if they get a hold of it and store it for decades, you want to make sure that's an encryption algorithm that's not only unbreakable today, but will also remain unbreakable for the foreseeable future. I guess that's the lesson for today. One, don't panic sell your Bitcoin. Bitcoin's not going anywhere. When quantum computing finally does come out, I'm sure Bitcoin will have long since been upgraded. Okay. The only thing I can think of where this would really come in handy is privacy currency like Monero. Let's say you wanted to use Monero to buy some adult material. No one would know that you spent your Monero on adult material because the entire transaction's encrypted. Unlike Bitcoin, where everybody knows who you spent it on, what wallet went to what wallet, and how much and when. Monero, it's entirely encrypted and obfuscated. No one can see, but it's a public ledger and publicly verifiable through cryptographic means. And it's a great privacy coins for, buying adult stuff. And today, it may not be a big deal because no one could break that encryption. And tomorrow, 20 years from now, maybe you got kids and maybe they look at the blockchain, they find your Monero address, and they can now break the encryption for the past entries using a quantum computer. They can now see that you went to a naughty site when you're in your youth, and they could use that against you for leverage. Make up your own scenario. I'm being silly here, but I mean, you get the idea, I hope. It's things you encrypt now can be decrypted later if you use a quantum computing vulnerable algorithm. Not everything does, and there are quantum computing resistance protocols out there. We should switch to that. So if you are using Monero, as a cryptocurrency, specifically to hide your stuff, don't tie your wallet address to your name because that entire blockchain will someday be visible. And I suspect what will happen is Monero will find and adopt a quantum computer resistant encryption algorithm at some point. The problem is the blockchain is look ledger. Everybody has a copy of this thing, right? So the older stuff that was signed in an old primitive way that's breakable by quantum will be readable, and everything after the date, which they cut over, will be secured. So the problem can be solved, and it's in process more or less, and it's way ahead of schedule. It's just think about the data you're storing with breakable encryption or future breakable encryption, and that's really all I have to say on that. Don't panic, but start thinking about it. Hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you all in the next one.
Thanks for watching. We hope this video has provided valuable information to you. Be sure to share this video with other small business owners to spread the word about the importance of cybersecurity. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos like this. If you want more information about cybersecurity, visit us at www.cybervenger.com.